All right, we're rocking and rolling on a booty shot. All right. So here it is, the inaugural interview.
Yep.
So Richard Harrison. Um, let's go through basically why we're sitting down today. We talked about this earlier about your military experience and certain things that have been important to you, things that you wanted to share. Maybe some of the emotional things that you're going through, thinking back. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but why don't we start off with a little bit of like who you are, where you grew up, your background, what led you into the military, and we'll just kind of start from there. So, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay, and brothers, sisters.
I have one full brother, one full sister, and then several half brothers and half sisters.
Okay, so your mother and father, or one or the other, were very fruitful and
Yes,
pollinating the world.
Dad had lots of kids.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. What did you like doing as a kid?
I mean, I grew up in the city, but I did enjoy going, playing in the woods, playing in the creek, exploring, riding my bike, and things like that.
Okay, so pre-internet era childhood, basically.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
I think we can.
Thankful.
Most of us can relate to that.
Right.
What about sports? Were you into sports at all?
Um, I got into wrestling in high school, but and then boxing. I think I was right out of high school when I got into boxing and martial arts and things like that.
So we're like combat sports more your appeal, not the team sport. Like
Right, right. Yeah, I really enjoyed basically sparring and combat in really any kind of combat sports.
okay, and remind me, you're 52, right?
I'm 51.
We'll say you're 52 for the sake of the interview. All right, so that puts you. Um, so you joined in the 90s.
Yep, 98.
Okay, so just prior to 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you weren't drawn in for that reason.
No, no. The reason I joined is because at the time I was a manager of a arcade, and and I really liked the job, but I just felt like I was doing the same thing every day, and I didn't see myself progressing or doing. I wanted an adventure. I'm growing up. I was always one that I wanted to try something new. I wanted to have an adventure, and so I was driving home from work or to work or whatever, and it popped on my head. I'm doing the same thing every day. I want to try something new. And as soon as I said that to myself, I looked up, and in a little strip mall there was a recruiter's office.
Right.
And I was just like, well, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. So I just pulled in, and it had all four of the branches. And I sat there in the parking lot and I looked at all of them, and I'm like, you know what? I can't join the Navy because I just not a fan of bell bottoms. And
Right.
and I saw the Air Force, and I was like, if I want to join the Air Force, I want to be a pilot. And I knew my eyes were not going to let me be a pilot. I had really bad vision. And so it was basically between the Army and the Marines. Well, my dad had been in the Army in Vietnam. My uncle was in Vietnam in the Army. I had cousins that were in the Army, and so I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna one up them and do the hardest one.
Right.
So that's what happened. I just walked in and said, hey, I want to join.
So you were a recruiter's wet dream.
Yeah.
You just basically made their job a whole lot easier for them.
Yep. There was a pull-up bar inside the office, and they're like, let's see if you can do some pull-ups. And, of course, at the time I was in pretty good shape because I was in training in martial arts and everything. And so I did that. And, they were like, okay, let's get you, taking the test and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And yeah, that's how it happened.
So what was your MOS?
So when I took the test, they asked me if I could they wanted me to be an intel.
Okay.
Because I did good on the test, I guess. So they wanted me to be in Intel and be a linguist, which I thought actually wouldn't be bad, but I was like, if I'm going to join, I want to be in the field. I want to do the fun stuff.
Right.
And so I said, I want to be out. I want to be a grunt. I want to be out in the field. You know, I didn't know much about the Marines, but I knew the word grunt, and I was
Right.
like, I want to be out there. And they're like, okay, well, you know, with your score, you know, because mortarmen have to do calculations and all that kind of stuff. Will you be a mortarman? And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll try that.
I think we had probably the same speech with my recruiter, but I was so oblivious to anything. I remember flipping through the MOS booklet. I'm like, what, you can be a telephone repair guy? You can be a
Right.
chef? I'm like, who?
Yeah.
Why would you join the Marines for that? I did the same thing. I said, I just want to be a grunt. I want to be 0311, get me in there. And that's what I signed up for. But, long story short, it didn't end up that way. But so you went in as a mortarman, and so tell me about boot camp. I mean, we all have seen the movies. I've been through it. A lot of people who are going to watch this have been through it, but everyone's experience is a little bit different. So where did you go? San Diego or Parris Island?
I went to San Diego. I remember I got on the plane in Kansas City and flew out there and got off the plane, and we all lined up by this bus
Right.
that was going to take us, you know, on base and everything. And we at the time we all just got on the bus and drove onto base. And as soon as we got onto base and the bus stopped, a drill instructor came on the bus and totally freaked everybody out. Like we had 5 seconds to get off that bus, and of course we did not make it. We did not get off in 5 seconds, so we had to get back on the bus and
Right.
do it again until we got off in 5 seconds.
Right. The head games began right away.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that's when it all started, and pretty much everybody on the bus was like, "What did I just do?"
Exactly. I know we had a guy that showed up in his white prom tux with ruffles.
Nice.
Not sure what his deal was.
Yeah.
I showed up with a very bad sunburn from Santa Cruz 2 days before, so I wasn't happy. Now, I got there at night. Were you there at nighttime or day? You remember?
I honestly can't remember if it was. I feel like it was night too.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about boot camp? Did it live up to your expectations?
It was. So the beginning was obviously a lot of head games, very mentally difficult, because I joined when I was 24 years old. So I was already, my brain was already in the, you know, nobody tells me what to do type of phase.
Right.
And so it was very, very difficult at the beginning. I did get used to it, and I did see that there were rewards to doing well. So I ended up, by the end of boot camp, I really kind of was ready to obviously get out of boot camp, ready to graduate.
Sure.
But I wasn't nearly as, you know, upset or sad that I was there and all that kind of stuff. I really liked what I was doing, the fun stuff that we got to do.
Right. Did you experience what kind of diversity was there that you had to deal with in boot camp with your other
Everybody?
recruits?
There was every kind of person in my my platoon in boot camp. So we had Asian, black, white, Hispanic. We had one guy that was I think he was like 38 years old. He had been in the Filipino Marines or something like that, and he was like in his country he had been progressed a lot. So in the military he had kills on his belt, he had jumps on his belt, and all that kind of stuff. So, but I think he was a little bit too old to join the Marine Corps. He should have joined the Army because he didn't make it through boot camp.
38 is usually when a lot of guys are looking at retirement.
Yeah.
So which is crazy to think of at that age because you're still really young.
And he was in good shape and everything, but I think he was just a little bit too old, or maybe wasn't prepared. Maybe he thought that boot camp in the Marine Corps was similar to the boot camp in whatever military he was in, and it's going to be totally different.
Okay, so you got out, and did Jody steal your girlfriend? Like you did everyone else?
So yeah, I actually had a girlfriend going in, and you know, she came to my graduation with my sister, and that was great, and everything was fine there. I ended up marrying her and having a couple of kids.
Oh,
and
okay.
it actually was. That's one of the reasons why I did want to marry her, was because you know what, I had so many of my friends that their girlfriends or wives did fall into the arms of another man, or just left him because they couldn't deal with the distance.
Right.
And mine didn't do that. So I was like, you know what, this is the girl.
Well, mine did. And for those who are not in the military, I said Jody. Jody was the mythical man who was going to take your girl.
Yes.
And they threw that in your face constantly.
They warn you, throughout boot camp. They warn you that it's not like if it happens, it's when it happens.
Right.
And it 99% of the time it did happen, and it did happen with me eventually too. It just wasn't in boot camp.
Right. Well, a lot of guys in the military know that you go on a float and you come back and she's not there
realize
anymore.
You're single.
Right.
I wish I would have known while I was on float. So.
Right. So you get out of boot camp and then you go to, what's your next stop?
I went to SOI, School of Infantry. That's when you learn the whatever specialty that you do. So I was a mortarman. So when I went to SOI, we focused on learning bigger weapons basically, and then obviously with mortars. So you learn 60 millimeter mortars and 81 millimeter mortars. So so that's where we'd spend about a couple months doing that, and then before you go in the fleet.
Okay. And then you were stationed where? Pendleton?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so 1st Marine Division.
I was in 1-1, so first I was in 1-1 first in Camp Horno.
Okay.
And 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. So that's where I was the first half of my enlistment.
Okay, so Camp Horno, for those who don't know, that's part of Pendleton, but it's like a smaller. I was at Camp Lejeune, so it was kind of the same thing. We had Camp Geiger and Camp Johnson, and they're all little offshoots.
Lots of camps in the camp.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And from that point, it was just sit around and wait? Or
so what? No, we when I joined 1-1, so some of the things that we did, I mean, obviously we did our training, we did our physical stuff, hiking mountains and and all that kind of stuff. But some of the things that you do is go to 29 Palms, California, and basically you'll do combined arms exercise called CAX. And so you're going to do training, go there with a whole battalion and or combine battalions and go do some training in those. So that was actually, it was kind of fun, but you are away for a month or two at a time, and there's really not a lot of chance of there's no chance of watching TV or reaching out to your family or anything like that. Right. So you're kind of out for a while. So so you do those, and then we also went on a Westpac. So basically you get on ship, and a lot of people don't know that we have bases in a lot of different countries, but there's also bases on the water. So whenever you're on a Westpac, basically what you're doing is you're getting a battalion on a ship and going around the world in case things happen, or basically patrolling the world.
Right.
And so that's what we did for 6 months. And during those floats, you stop at different countries that you go past, and so In total, I've went to 11 countries.
Okay. You take in a lot of the local folk dancing?
Yeah, actually, I was one of the Marines that I didn't just want to go out to the bars. A lot of Marines they stop at a port and they just want to go to the bar and get drunk and then come back
The
on
buy me
ship.
drinky bars and
Yes,
right,
and I never understood that really. I mean, I did go to bars, I did drink, and overly drink sometimes.
right,
But I also wanted to, if I'm going to this country, may not never go to this country again. I want to see stuff. So I would, get to know some of the locals and, go see sites and I went to Singapore and went on a bullet train and that was really really neat. And go to when I was in Okinawa, I went and saw some bunkers and stuff from previous wars. And
right.
it was I like to explore. So
I think that probably had a lot to do with your age, being a little bit older than the rest of the Marines, because most of those guys, they're in at 18,
right,
first time away from home. So that's, yeah, give them a little bit of freedom and a
yeah.
sweet PFC paycheck. And
Yeah, they want to spend it all.
right. So so in my memory, those are the moments, those early times when you start forming those friendships, those bonds that you have with a lot of people. Do you still have friendships with people from that early stage in your service?
Several. Yeah, I still, obviously mostly just Facebook friends, but I'll chat with them once in a while, go through some old pictures and, find pictures of some of the very first Marines that I got to be friends with. And, I'll send them the pictures and we'll start talking about, remember this, remember that. And,
Right.
that was kind of when you were asking about diversity. Um, that was one of the best things I could say about the Marine Corps that made everything worth it was that you meet so many people from so many different backgrounds and diversities, and you will be friends with them your entire life.
Right.
And there was no black Marine or white Marine or brown Marine or whatever. It was just Marine. We were just Marines.
Right.
It was about green. It wasn't about black and white. So yeah, so I really am lucky that I joined, and that's the best thing I've ever did.
I found it was really interesting how you would find people just because growing up in California, you found someone, like I was stationed in North Carolina, you find someone, hey, this guy over here is from California. It was almost like we were destined to be friends, even though we probably had zero in common.
Right.
Probably never would have been friends in the real world.
Yep.
But those commonalities bring you together, and then you start building on top of that, and you start, because you're forced to. I lived in a squad bay for the first 2 years, so it was kind of like you were forced to have to just be with these people all the time and grow these friendships. And all of my friends were from all over the country, and
Yeah.
it was nice because it takes you out of your own little bubble. And it sounds like you had the same experience.
Oh yeah.
I think we all do.
Yeah, yeah, and just different personalities. Oh, this person's sleeping next to me in a bunk, and he was raised extremely wealthy. I was raised extremely poor, and or you'll have this person who has difficulty opening a straw because they're not there's like stupid people versus smart people, and it doesn't matter. I thought I went to boot camp with a guy that was a lawyer on the outside.
Really?
So it's like it really brings everybody to an equal spot, and it was really kind of refreshing, really kind of nice.
Yeah. So, okay, and you were in during combat times. So, what was the genesis of that? Was it 9/11 that got you to go overseas?
Yes. So when 9/11 happened, I was actually stationed in Okinawa, and so we got on the ship, the USS Essex. Yeah, and so we were actually the first fleet over to Afghanistan because we were already kind of that direction. So yeah, we were first ones over there. a few of us went on land, but I mean, it was really just a get over there just in case things happen type
Right.
of thing. We weren't necessarily extremely prepared for anything that was going to happen. They just wanted to get us over there as soon as possible. So yeah, so right after September 11th, we hopped on ship, went over there, really to hold down until the prepared fleet came out there.
Right.
So
I imagine that being in the service and preparing for war is one thing, but then when it's on their doorstep, there's got to be some anxiety, even though they pump you up. I know the Marines were all about just being the badasses and devil dogs and all that. We can all play that role until you're called in to actually fulfill that role. How do you remember that feeling when you knew that you were actually going into a combat zone?
I was, again, growing up, I was always a fighter. I mean, I fought my entire childhood, and so when it came to that, I was kind of, let's do this, let's go. But there were obviously Marines that were not like that, and there were some that it wasn't. It was almost like you were in the Boy Scouts until that happened, and then they realized, oh gosh, this is for real.
Right.
And so you could tell some of them were very, very upset, nervous, and and all that kind of stuff. But that's when we really kind of pulled together as a team and get each other's backs, and hey, we got this, and talk each other up, and prepare each other. But um, all the training we had before that was for that. So that's what we had to remember. We know how to do what we need to do. We just gotta put it.
It's different though when someone else might be firing back.
Right. We just got to put it in action and remember the basics. Really.
So when you went over there, what rank were you at that time? Do you remember?
When I went to Afghanistan,
Yeah.
I think I had just. I think I was either a corporal or I just picked up sergeant.
Okay, so you were an NCO, so you had a level of leadership. So
yeah, I was a platoon sergeant for headquarters platoon at the time.
Okay. And when did you first get into an actual situation where you're like, okay, I'm in the shit now?
Probably when we landed. I was a mortarman, so I never really had to get close to anything.
Right.
Anyway, I shot over hills, so I was never really nervous or anything like that. But when we got to and we had already been some of our floats and stuff. I had already been to Saudi Arabia and East Timor and UAE and stuff like that. So I already got to know kind of hostile countries, or a little bit countries that were kind of a little bit more foreign than others.
It's funny you say East Timor because my daughter on her float, she stopped there too. I just wonder if that's like a normal stop for them.
Yeah, so East Timor, when I went over there, it was more of they weren't trying to do anything to Americans or anything like that. They were doing stuff to each other. So our job was, a little bit more of a kind of peacekeeping type of thing.
Very poor country.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, East Timor is off the coast of Australia, correct?
Indonesia.
Indonesia? I thought it was close to. Well,
it's close to, yeah. But yeah, very, very like living in huts and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so
yeah, in Afghanistan, I really didn't do all that much. Again, I was a headquarters platoon, so I had friends that definitely saw more stuff than I did. But we would all talk about it and stuff like that because we had to eventually get back on the ship and come back to the U.S.
Right.
When everybody else was out there. So yeah, I know a lot of my friends had to deal with a lot more than I did, but I mean, anything that I saw, it really doesn't. I know everything affects people differently mentally, but it never really did anything.
Yeah. What are your greatest memories of time in the military?
Um, one of I mean, obviously, the camaraderie and the friends and stuff like that is great. Also, whenever you accomplish something that you never thought you would have been able to.
Right.
I would say one of my most emotional times, besides like graduating boot camp, everybody gets teary eyed when you graduate boot camp because it's like, oh my gosh. But when I was in Hawaii and we did a battalion hike up a mountain, and so when you're a mortarman, you have 3-man gun team. You have a gunner, an A gunner, and an ammo man. And so that 3-man team carries all the equipment to shoot one mortar system. Well, you have a tube, you have 2 base plates, you have sight box, you have sight stakes, you have a lot of different stuff, the bipod and all that kind of stuff. So you have all the these parts that you need to carry
Right.
as a team. And when we hiked up that mountain in in Hawaii as a battalion, my Marines that were with me on my gun team both fell out, and so when they started falling out, I had to, you have to continue carrying that gun system or it's useless. So while they were falling out, I had to get their gun systems and put them on me, and so one of them fell out. We kind of both, me and the other guy carried his stuff and continued on, and then the other guy started falling out, and so I had to take his, and I took his helmet and his M16. So,
Did hell rain down on those guys afterwards?
yeah. So by the time I got to the top of the mountain, I fell back. I didn't fall out,
Right.
but I thought I was going to fall out. Like I thought for sure I was going to end up in the back of a Humvee with our corpsman and medical team. And but I kept going, and I was just like, you know what, this is I have to, this is the test. This is the test.
Right.
And so I ended up getting all his stuff, and I ended up making it up the mountain. I fell back, but I didn't fall out. And when I got up to the top of the mountain where it plateaued, the rest of the battalion was sitting there already done. And there was me, I'm obviously a few more people, but when I got up to the top and everybody saw all the stuff that I was carrying, like the whole battalion stood up and just started clapping and cheering, and I'm just like, that was the one time where I was just like, okay,
Right.
I accomplished something that even myself didn't think I was going to be able to do.
Right. Yeah.
So
did they boo the other guys or just give them the silent treatment?
I don't even remember what. I mean, they picked
You're
them
probably
up.
too exhausted to remember.
Yeah. I wasn't paying attention to what they were doing with them, but I was. They did pick them up, with the Medicum-V,
Right.
But yeah, that was one of the things. So that was one of the best things. And then being on ship on a Westpac and seeing whales come up to the boat, dolphins, that kind of thing was just. I remember one of my favorite memories that I talk about is I used to work out. Yes, I did. Work out twice a day, in the morning and then before I went to bed.
Right.
And in the morning, one of the things I would do is go on the flight deck of the carrier. We were on the USS Peleliu when I went on my Westpac.
Okay.
And it was a big carrier.
That's a great name to have too. A lot of history with that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I would get up and do laps on the flight deck. And I remember I was running around the flight deck early in the morning. The sun was just coming up and everything, and none of the machinery was coming. There was no helicopters taking off, landing, so it was pretty quiet. and then I start hearing this, like sound, uh, like a hose, firing off air or something. And I'm like, I'm used to those kinds of sounds, hydraulics and things,
Sure.
on the ship. And then I it happened a couple of times, and then I'm like, wait a minute, there's nothing going on here. There's nobody out here. And so I was like, what is that noise? And then I heard it again, and it sounded like it was off the side of the ship. And so I look off the side, and there's a huge whale just just chilling right next to the ship. And I'm like looking over the side, and he kind of tilts and is looking at me. And I thought that was just the coolest thing in the world, because I'm from in the middle of the country. I've never been to an ocean before
Right.
I joined the Marines. And so that was amazing to me. I thought that was great.
That sounds pretty cool, especially since it was only you. So it's kind of
Right.
more just for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's neat. What about the opposite? What about were there any like bad moments or traumatic moments? Obviously, as you say, you weren't like in the shit, so you're not going to have that type of PTSD. But anything else that was like traumatic that you had to deal with?
I mean, there were some. Like we had a Marine that uh, uh, he kind of a bad story. He noticed that his wife kept getting text messages with just three numbers, blah blah blah,
Okay.
3-digit number. And so he would question her about it, and she was like, I don't know what that is, blah blah. And so anyway, he ended up was driving past the barracks one day, and
Not sure why the light just went off.
yeah, he was driving past the barracks one day, and he sees his wife's car, and so he stops and he looks up at the barracks, the room numbers, and when he saw a room number, it just clicked. That was the number
Right.
that he would get, his wife would get. So he went up to the room and knocked on the door, and it was actually his staff sergeant, our staff sergeant, that was in the room with his wife, and his wife was getting out of the shower. So when he had the door open, yeah. So that kind of stuff was happening, which obviously nobody likes that.
Sure.
And but other than that, I mean, made the mistake of going to Tijuana, with some Marines, and we would get robbed by the police down there in Tijuana. So
Yeah.
Mexican police will rob you.
Imagine that.
Yeah, yeah. So that happened. Other than that, I mean, a lot of people talk about like drill instructors abusing people and stuff, and
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I actually saw one of my drill instructors punch somebody in the chest, and
Mhm.
things like that. And but it's no worse than anything that happens on the outside. You know what I mean? Growing up, I got into I got punched way worse.
Right.
On
I
the
think that's
outside.
something a lot of people never went in, or maybe they went into the Air Force or the Navy, to where they don't understand that certain services, like the Marines and Special Forces, they're going to push you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, getting a little physical with you is frowned upon, especially these days. But back in the day, like in my day, I joined 7 years after Vietnam ended.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of that Vietnam era mentality, and the physicality was definitely there in boot camp. Uh, I know that some have taken it too far, and there have been stories, but um, I almost feel bad for the Marines who go through it and don't have to deal with that, because I feel like that test was never administered to them.
Right.
They're going to have to pass it eventually. Um, and hopefully they don't. Hopefully they don't have to go to combat, but it seems like in today's world, another war is always around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So you were in during the early stages of the 20-year plus war. When did you get out?
I got out in 2002. Um, so I was in 98 to 2002.
So you're a quitter, basically.
So I had already missed. I got two options because I was in Afghanistan when my time was basically going to be up.
Right.
And so they gave me, they said, hey, you can either, if you're wanting to get out, you can go ahead and ride back with the ship because, like I said, the ship had to come back and get all equipped and everything. So you can either ride back with the ship and go ahead and get out, or you can just stay there and then go back with whenever we get a new ship or fly or whatever. And I ended up riding back and getting out. And it wasn't really that I wanted to get out of the Marines that bad. It was more of I had already missed my daughter's birth. She was born when I was on ship. Before that, when I was on the first deployment, she was born. I didn't even find out she was born until 3 days after she was already born. And so my son was going to be coming up. His birth was going to be coming up, and so I didn't want to. I would have had to stay in Afghanistan. So I didn't want to miss his birth. I was like, right. I don't want to miss both of them. So I came back and got out so that I can be there for his birth. Right. And so that's why I did it. And I do. Not that I looking back wish I would have missed his birth.
Sure.
But I wish I would have sacrificed that moment for a longer career in the Marine Corps and still have my son. You know what I mean? Because right. I didn't looking back, I didn't have to be there for his birth. And I know some people disagree, but it's not like he remembers it. It's like, So I mean, I don't know. I should have stayed in, and who knows what would happen. With that.
I think we all have those question marks about when we get out. I know I did my 4 years and got out, and in hindsight, I wish I would have stayed in. But in the moment, you make those decisions based on that information and family, kids that can really like sway your decisions one way pretty quickly.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so you got out. Was she living on base housing, or was she out in the?
No, she had moved back to Kansas City. So she had moved to California when we had our daughter.
Right.
She moved out to California and we didn't stay on base. We stayed off base. And so we lived in Carlsbad for a while.
You could live in worse places.
Yeah. It was. We liked it, but it was one of those things where, like I said, I was away for a while, and she ended up dating more, and I found that to be an issue. And so that's what happened with that. And then I tried to stay with her. I tried to make it work, and it just, unfortunately, it was nothing I could ever. I wasn't able to get over it.
Right.
And so she went back to Kansas City, and but she went back, and she was, and we still tried. And that's when we had Micah and all that kind of stuff. So so she was already living back in Kansas City. We were already separated when he was born, but that's what. So she never lived on base with me, and I was just basically home visiting until I got out and wanted to be a part of the kids' life, which I could have either way. So.
Right.
I should have just transferred to, be a recruiter in Kansas City. Looking back, that's what I should have done. But.
Sure. Well, you didn't. So here you are. Became a civilian, slimy civilian, like we say. Mm-hmm. All right. So probably within the last year, maybe 6 months ago or so, hard to remember, you started bringing up things to where you were having a lot of dreams about being in the service, just
Mm-hmm.
having all these reoccurring dreams. And what do you think? What do you think that was all about? Are you um, longing for something that you had while you're in the military? Was it the military itself, the structure? Was it the friendships? Or what
Yeah,
do you think that's all about?
I think it's a mix of all that. Because it's, I mean, I have a few dreams that of doing like missions and stuff in the Marines, but
Sure.
it's never like nightmares. Uh, it's even those kinds of dreams where I'm actually doing stuff. I don't wake up in like a cold sweat freaking out. I just it's like oh, okay, yeah, that wasn't real.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the dreams are just me still being in the Marines or me going back to the Marines at the age I am now and the shape I'm in now. So I just have dreams that I'm in again or still in. And I think it's just basically my brain taking the best times of my life and putting myself back in there,
Right.
because it really happens, especially when I'm, maybe not, uh, maybe not as happy as I usually am. If I'm having a rough time at work, or if I'm having a rough time at home, or something like that, it really that's when those dreams really happen. So it's like my brain just going back to the best time of my life.
Okay. I can see that. Does it make you want to, I don't know, say, maybe not reunions are what we're looking for, but does it make you want to maybe bring back a little bit of that part of your life somehow?
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
If I could literally uh, go back right now, or not go back, if I could join the Marines right now, if physically I was able to, I would. Yeah, reunions would be amazing, to get to see everybody, and really, when I think about reunions, I don't just think about going to a bar or a restaurant with a bunch of guys that I was in the Marines with. Yeah, that would be great too, to see everybody.
Sure.
I actually would love to grab some of my good buddies and go camping, or go, especially if I can get some of my mortarman friends, uh, get a mock mortar system and go see if we can't set one up again.
Sure.
Just to see if we still.
Still got it.
Yep.
You'd probably be disappointed in your first
Oh
attempt.
yes, I would not be able to do it, but I would try until I did.
Yeah. Um, you've introduced me to one of your Marine buddies that lives here locally here in Texas. Tell me a little bit about him and where you guys met.
Yep, Pat Runyon. He was with me in the Marines. Really good guy. He was a lot more. I wouldn't say disciplined. He was a lot more, kind of a typical moto Marine. They People looked at him like he was going to be a lifer, and,
Okay.
and things like that. So, but yeah, super super nice guy. Um, I actually don't remember what town or what state he's from. But yeah, he lives here now, which is awesome. Being able to get a hold of him, and I know that if ever am having a little bit of a difficult time, um, yeah, not feeling 100%, I can call him and he would meet up with me, and
Right.
and so we could talk and all that kind of stuff. And that's the one great thing I love about my Marine friends is we're there for each other if we need him. He could call me any day of the week, and I'll drop what I'm doing if he needs me.
Yeah. That's one of the things about the friendships that you make is that you are, when you're that young, I was a little bit younger because I was 18 when I went into boot camp. The, the friendships that you make, you're making under conditions that are very stressful at the time. in that point of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you find these people and you kind of latch arms in a way without doing it, but you actually, in a way, you're latching arms and saying, okay, buddy, we're in this together. You know,
Yep.
I got your back, you got my back. And then you just start building on that. And
Yep.
those friendships just don't die. I mean, you
No.
do move. I mean, all of my friends, when we got out, we went our separate ways. But we keep in touch, and we always have, those the connection, those memories to fall back on, um, because a lot of it was at a point in your life where it's a springboard to who you are now,
Mm-hmm.
and they were a part of it. So everything that I have accomplished, I can look back to those friendships and say, I wouldn't be here without this guy, because there was probably a point in my life to where I needed some help or he needed some help, and whoever gave the help also grew at the same time. And those are bonds that just don't go away.
Right.
Even though you do move away. Um, Unfortunately, in this day and age, in the day that you were in, now they're dealing with a lot of suicides,
Mm-hmm.
people coming back. It's been documented over and over on the internet. I think they said 22 vets a day commit suicide, and it could be even higher. We don't really know. But um, did you ever have to deal with any of that? Any friends that
Yeah.
really struggled getting out?
Yeah, I've had several friends commit suicide, or basically get to the point where they really needed to go see help, go get help, and things like that. But yeah, we've definitely had some that has, well, even while I was when I was in boot camp, one of the guys took his own life in boot camp. And when I was in the fleet, we had a staff sergeant that did the same thing.
Wow. Okay.
So I mean, there is, it definitely happens because like I said, everything affects people differently. Now, the people that get out and do it, I no expert on it. All I can do is just wonder why, because never really had to deal with that myself.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can do is just wonder what is making them go that direction. And the only thing that I can think of that would even not make me think about doing something like that, but make me even slightly depressed, it has nothing to do with PTSD. It has to do with having that life and no longer having that life anymore.
Right.
Um, because even though it was difficult, it was by far the best part of my life. And to think about, like I do get sad thinking about that I'm never going to have that again.
Right.
And that's what that does bother me, but obviously not enough to do.
I think that probably has a lot to do with how you don't see the suicides with athletes, but kind of the same thing, to where
Mm-hmm.
they've committed their life to a certain thing. They've got this short bubble to where they're at their peak, or maybe they just grew up being the man their whole life, and then one day you're no longer the man, and you have to be a normal person now.
Right.
And how do you mentally handle that? They are two different things, but I think they've got their parallels.
Yeah.
So
No, I would say, it's very, very similar because that was, that their identity was a star athlete, and then once that is gone, what's their identity?
right.
My identity was a Marine, and I was pretty good. I was a pretty good Marine, I think it turned out to be. And so it's like, when I got out, what am I? I'm not a Marine anymore. I mean, I once a Marine, always Marine, but
Sure.
Realistically, I'm not.
In your mind, you're now, it's all of that has been stripped down, and now you're just thrown back out there into the world. Um, and then you have to try to use any skills that you learn. So being a mortarman, you can't really use that
Right.
in the world. So now you're starting over from scratch, and you're a little bit older.
Yep.
And that's a struggle I think a lot of us have. I had the same thing.
Like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And then again, you look back on even the worst things that you would go through in the Marines. It ends up being like, in some of the worst things that I've dealt with, I wish I could do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because because looking back on it, it was great. When you go through the shellback ceremony, whenever you go on ship and you go overseas and you cross the equator, you have a shellback ceremony. So you get hazed and messed with so bad the first time you do it.
Right.
And but you end up laughing about it later, and some of it's not great. They, some of the stuff they make you eat, or just different things that they do. One of the things that I saw was, or took part of, I'm not sure, I'm not going to say either way, but is spraying shaving cream all over the hallway floor, and then taking people who are going through that ceremony for the first time, and we'll take them and slide them down the hallway, and they smack into the wall, and things like that, and or just take all the food from the chow hall, mix it all together, and make them eat it.
That's a legendary story.
Yeah.
I've seen the photos. I never did that, but I've had buddies who did, and they would show the old school photos. And I was like, what in the hell are you guys doing?
Oh yeah, we did it. Yep. And then people being told to measure the flight deck with their pinkies.
Sure. Because why not?
Come back with the number.
Right. What'd you learn?
Yeah.
Sucks to be that guy.
Yeah.
What about how was it when you first got out? What did you first do?
So when I first got out, ironically, because like you said, what are you going to do? The last 4 years, I have zero experience of anything that I can take with me.
Right.
I was a platoon sergeant, so management, I guess I could put that on there.
Right.
But I was a mortarman, so skills. I mean, what did I do that I can bring on the outside? So ironically, the first thing I did was take advantage of the law where the company that I left to go in the Marines had to hire me back.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up getting my job back at that arcade as a manager, and managing a couple of those for a shorter period of time. And that whole company went under, just because arcades are kind of obsolete unless you're like Dave and Buster's or something.
Right.
So, and then after that, several jobs doing security.
The same.
Yep. Security, armed guard, things like that. Private officers, and I done security from hotels to medical facilities, and
right.
Even patrol, things like that. So that's what I did for quite a long time.
So let's say, okay, what is still kind of going on in your head? Is there any kind of something that you want to share with anybody watching this, as far as I don't know, what's going on in your head as far as like a message that you want to put out there, be it personal or maybe more broad scope?
I would say, especially if you have somebody, if you know somebody, or have a kid, or if you're thinking about joining the military, I always tell people, yes, it's always going to make you better. It's you never really see where somebody joins the military, especially the Marines, and they're worse than they were when they joined. It's never that case. So it's always going to make you better. You're going to have experiences that 99% of your friends are not going to be able to say they've done the same.
Right.
You have to think about, even before and during, is the negative stuff. The negative things that happen are going to be the things that you will tell stories about later. So it's going to be it's going to be worth it, and you're going to be glad it happened. And that's just like I'm talking about the like little frustrating things, the
It's
I
never
got
as bad as you think it is in the
right.
moment.
I
Right.
got yelled at because I wasn't marching as straight as everybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
Things like that, and it's going to be frustrating at the time, and you're going to be like, "This is bullshit." But you look back and you're like, "Man, that was awesome. That was pretty cool."
It's funny how we reevaluate these moments in our lives the older you get, and life experiences. You start looking at things differently because you've got this perspective. Like, it really wasn't that bad. I
Right.
was probably just being an immature little bitch at the
Right.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll just say we still have a little civilian in us. That was
Yes.
a little bit of crybaby.
Yeah, you get, and that's the thing that, and you take some of that with you later too, in a good way.
Right.
To this day, I cannot be late for anything. It's like embedded into me. I get anxiety if I'm late, and I'm talking about if I'm, have buddies meet me at a bar,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, "Hey, we're going to meet up around 6 o'clock." If I don't get there by 6, I start having anxiety. And
Right.
it's nothing. It means nothing to be there on time. Like there's no, I could be a little bit late. It's not, we're not going to miss anything.
No.
We're just hanging out.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
So yeah, but I have to be there on time, because in the Marines, nothing you do is fast enough. Not you have to be on time. Nothing is good enough.
Right.
And so it kind of sticks with you.
Yeah.
And walking fast.
You do walk fast, and you still eat way too fast.
Yes.
My God, it's not boot camp anymore. Slow down.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, one more thing, I think, and I find this interesting because we talk about friendships. You and I met, I believe, in late 2015 at work. I'm pretty sure that the reason that we became friends is because we both were Marines, right? Yep. Different times, had different experiences, but it always is kind of like what they say, semper fi, right?
Yeah.
Once a Marine, always a Marine, even though, I've been out for 38 years now.
Yeah.
I can't remember most of anything. The jargon, a lot of it's gone.
Yeah. When people say like commander, people's names and even divisions and bases and stuff like that. Right. I forgot a lot of it. But yeah, it is one of those things where, and I was never told this beforehand, because like I said, I just joined. I didn't talk about it with anybody or anything, or any Marines. And one thing that I will say that to look forward to is, after you get out, if you meet anybody that was a Marine, you're going to be friends. If you meet anybody that I mean, really any branch, any we always, if I see somebody with a a veteran hat on, they were in the Air Force, of course, and they see my name tag at work, I have Marine Corps on a symbol on there. And we always give each other the nod or the heads up or sure. But when I meet another Marine, never saw him before in my life, it's an instant conversation. It's like, there's just a camaraderie that you don't have anywhere else. And I love that.
I think part of that too is because there's not a lot of Marines in comparison to the other services. Right. There's only 3 real main bases, right? You've got Pendleton, you've got Lejeune, and then you got the Air Wing on in Japan, which has since moved, I think. But still, there's not a whole lot of variety. Mm-hmm. Where in the Army you could be in Europe, you can be right, anywhere. So we've all walked the same paths. We've all eaten in the same chow halls. Mm-hmm. We've all had those common things that we can look back on and go, we've got that little bit of a bond. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter that we were born at different years, doesn't matter what part of the country we're in. We shared a common thing, right? And it's almost like, you've got people who are alumni of certain schools, maybe not a big university, maybe a prestigious university, something where, only the few get in. And that's why they say the few and the proud, right? Because there are so few of us. that I think it makes it a little stronger of a bond than if we had both been in the Army. I don't know
Who
that it would be
hasn't?
the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
just don't, because I
Yeah.
think they're too spread out. But yeah, I find it really interesting how people become friends. Of course, the test of time is, can you friendships remain? So I think we're contractually obligated to be friends for another 10 years, but
Right.
we'll see how that goes. You
Yeah.
know.
Maybe I'll re-up.
Yep. All right. Well, good talk.
Good talk.
All right. And we'll, hopefully this reaches somebody out there that can take something from it. You never know. You know, I don't know that we did anything enlightening to anybody, but maybe it would give somebody a little chuckle going, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be someone who was on one of the ships that you were on, the Essex or the
Peleliu.
Right. All right, man. Good
All
talk.
right.
And cut.